First off, I hear this is your first time ever in Canada. Welcome.
It is. I've seen it from Niagara Falls on the other side, but here I am now.
So why London?
Invitation by Western. They discovered what I was doing, this odd thing that I do, sleeping in slave dwellings, and they want to know more. They want to talk to me person to person, face to face.
Yeah, and we'd love to know more about this. So why did you start this slave dwelling project?
It's because of what I didn't learn in school. What I did learn in school put me in a position to believe that my ancestors were happy to be enslaved and the enslavers were benevolent. That was not true. That was that comfortable part of history that we want to keep many Americans in. I had to counter all that, do research to become a park ranger at Fort Sumter. And in that research, I discovered that what I learned, what I was taught, was not real, was not true.
You learned in school that slaves were happy to be enslaved?
Yes, that's my South Carolina education.
Did you buy that at the time?
At the time, yes. I mean, I was young. I was being molded in the way that the state wanted me molded. And that was a place that was dripping with United Daughters of Confederacy laced history, moonlight and magnolia, hoop skirts, and things of this nature. And that's what they wanted us to believe. That's what they taught us. And that's where I was in 1979 when I graduated.
So you've been doing this about 10 years, is that right?
15.
15 years now, okay. And so you've been all over America. What is it like to actually go inside these dwellings and sleep there?
It's different everywhere. When I graduated, my limited knowledge had slavery relegated to plantations in the South. But it's more than that. It was a national thing. Wherever colonies were, slavery existed. So I go into southern states, northern states. The northern states, the enslavement in those northern states were somewhat more intimate, as in New York, for instance. New York abolished slavery in 1799 on paper, but it was gradual. Last person freed in New York was 1827. So that's limited knowledge. A lot of folks have slavery relegated to southern states. And yes, it did take a civil war in the 13th Amendment to end slavery in those southern states, but slavery ended in those northern states also. But the experience itself, sleeping in the places alone, as I started out at the beginning in 2010, it was rough. Thinking about things, thinking about running away, thinking about children being born and owned by the enslavers, although they were biologically the mother's child. The laws of that period said that child belonged to that enslaver. So you think about those things. You think about those mothers giving birth in those spaces. You think about those spaces being a place of serenity that could be interrupted by the desire of the enslavers and all that they did to make that institution the heinous, barbaric institution that it was.
So when you're sleeping in these dwellings or when you're lying awake in these dwellings, how do you process those feelings?
Well, at the beginning, it was rough because I was in those places alone, and it was hard to get to sleep. But eventually, I did. The first experience I had is at a place I formerly worked at, Magnolia Plantation and Gardens. Getting to sleep was rough because the next morning was Mother's Day. Again, thinking about those mothers. Got up that next morning, took a walk, found the cemetery where the enslaved people were. Saw those indentions in the earth because if they were lucky enough to have been buried in a box, that box would give way, the earth above it would conform. And knowing that I was on a journey for them, telling their stories, because when they were on this earth, they were muted. So now I was on this journey to tell their story. So now, 15 years later, 25 states later, and the District of Columbia, I'm still at it.
So what have you learned then about the reality of these places?
I'm learning that slavery was not just a Southern thing, as I was led to believe. I'm also learning that despite it all, these people, my ancestors, they were a proud people, and that should be taught in that manner. These folks, in the cases of the plantation I worked at, a rice-growing plantation, They wanted to enslave people from that part of Africa where the rice grew. They came with that knowledge. They came and they engineered a swamp to be a rice-producing field that made the enslavers rich. So my ancestors should be looked upon as such, as those folks who had agency, despite what the system relegated them to.
So as I mentioned off the top, you're visiting the Fugitive Slave Chapel here in London. What do you plan on doing there?
Well, I want to visit. I want to see it. I want to explore the terminus of the Underground Railroad. You know, coming up north from the south to freedom was not enough. It's not good enough because there were always those laws, those attempts to re-enslave or even kidnap and enslave someone who was born free. So to come to Canada, to be here, where that sympathy, empathy was shown is a good opportunity for me. And it's going to add to the portfolio, the story that's being told. Luckily, there's been a book published about my adventures going, sleeping in slave dwellings. It's called Sleeping with the Ancestors, How I Followed the Footprints of Slavery. Well, right now we're working on a prequel to that. We want to now explore the revolutionary aspect of all our ancestors were, because in 2026, we're going to be commemorating the 250th anniversary of our independence from England. Well, we want to tell the stories of our enslaved ancestors of that period. And we also want to encourage the Native American presence, the Native American part of that story told. So we want to explore everything that Canada contributed to that era in our history. So now is an opportunity to do that.
Joseph, thank you for telling these stories, and thank you for coming in this morning. It's so great to meet you, and again, welcome to Canada.
Well, thank you.